Welcome, sir. And this is the audience.
Good to be here, thank you.
So we have some new members in the crew since they recently joined. So I'll just explain what Evolve is. For us, Evolve was a learning session where we got people who achieved something in life and had something to share, come and share it on the podium with us. And we try to learn out of it because for a company our size, for us to constantly evolve and change and be competitive in the market was something that we were looking at. And over the period of time, what we realized was learning comes in bits and pieces and it comes from anywhere. And that anywhere could add a significant meaning to what we were. And hence Evolve started. And it's great to have you here. And with the most basic question that we start our Evolve with, we would like to know a little about your journey in your words, because most of my team members have read and done research, but and we've seen you multiple times, but we'd like to know what it has been to you from your perspective.
This is going to be a tough one because there's a whole book which is really about that. But quick question, how many interns are here right now? And how many of those present have read the book, Morphosis? Anybody, apart from Stephen? Okay. So I think Sidra mentioned a few roles that I've played, and going into details for each one of them would be more than this session. So the thing is, I've done a lot of multitasking, I've donned many hats. As she said, I'm an actor, I'm a screenwriter, I'm an engineer, an MBA, an MPhil, a PhD. I've been in organizations covering areas like HR, general management, CEO, exited as chairman of a media company, and then I authored this book. So the interesting thing here is that I didn't do something and then moved on to something else. People say, how did you become an actor if you're so qualified? Or what was the decision that, was it only money or glamour that made you made your choices? So most of what I've done has been a hobby. And some of my hobbies have paid, so they became vocations that paid. And there were no conscious choices. So I was an actor since the age of 4. I used to write fiction as a teenager. I did my engineering, as all good sons listen to parents and say, okay, be an engineer, it's a family of engineers. And then instead of starting an industry, an opportunity came from XLR. I got admission, too good a chance to miss. And after that, got placed in Tata Motors, then Telco. Did work for 8 years, and then suddenly opportunities came. I started doing theatre again, and then a break in films, and became a writer by default because for one film I wrote my own scenes, and they said, why don't you write the whole film? And then I struck gold with a couple of commercial ventures. One was called Ashiki, which was a Golden Jubilee, and then there was Baazigar, which got me a Filmfare award. And then there was too much happening for me to not go with the flow of whatever came my way. But having been qualified and actually being at core, a trained professional as a So since my qualifications sort of naturally were meant to, carve a sort of career in the corporate world, I took a sabbatical, did my part-time MPhil and PhD, taught a lot at management at B schools, and then came back to another company and then finally stayed with it, started as a consultant and then finally moved on after taking the top position. And since then again I've been doing theatre, writing, so everything has been in tandem. And I'm not the perfect role model for any of you because the opportunities, the accidents, the chances that perhaps I got, you cannot design. There's no model as such. Except two sort of, one is a skill set, which is time management, that if you're really interested in achieving a lot and interested in multifarious kind of activity, then you must have the time management skills to attain that. And the other, of course, where it comes back to the book, if you're fortunate, you'll find the right mentors down the path, and that will make a major difference to your life. So in sum, this is it. I mean, we can get to specifics, but just that one question is really the whole book. So Stephen will retire by the time I finish. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. For coming back to us a little, for us, evolution is a part of almost all our processing because we really believe in it. And out of it, we know two things for sure: that evolution is a constant by itself, and the second is it requires you to be adaptable to change. And even when I read your book, you have mentors and Leonardo, the whole mentorship model comes across as the Vitruvian man, and you had mentors across the path. Through mentorship, one usually comes to the point of achieving a certain aspect of leadership within themselves. So I want to know, or I'm a little curious about, you play multiple roles. What is leadership to you? And is there a way you identify mentors? I mean, two different questions, but one follows the other.
Actually, very interesting. I have a hypothesis that actually meshes both the concepts of mentoring and leadership. So after all the cliches that one talks about, and leadership has been mentioned in management school since forever. I mean, in fact, leadership is the concept that's been has been in prevalence the longest. So whether it was Peter Drucker in my time or John Maxwell in the current times, it's been flawed a lot. So I actually sort of dumb it down to the very basics. So there are two generic yet very inclusive definitions that I have of leadership. One, of course, that everyone is a leader because everyone influences someone in some way. It's as simple as that. Each one of you is a leader because down the path that you've tread, you would have influenced someone. So if a leader, hypothetically, is an influencer, then you are a leader if you've influenced someone. And the other, which is slightly more proactive, is a leader is someone who knows the way. So when you speak of evolve, learning is an evolutionary process. So a leader is someone who knows the way, has the initiative and goes the way, and is demonstrative and shows the way. So for me, these two definitions really. Everyone is a leader because everyone influences someone, and a leader is someone who knows the way and goes the way and shows the way, are pretty all-encompassing. And anything beyond that is really a thesis that you move on to what are. So there's something called an authentic leader. And there have been multiple definitions over time about transformational leaders and stuff, but typically the few attributes of an authentic leader are vision. There's no denying that. A leader must have a vision. The passion for pursuit. The third is discipline. And the fourth is integrity. Now, integrity can be a good conscience, could be empathy, could be accountability. Discipline could be accountability. Of course, it all comes down to building trust. So if you were to be a successful mentor or a leader, the process of either leading or mentoring would entail mutual trust. So it's pretty much that, and then you can extrapolate this to, in the book there's a whole checklist of what the qualities of a leader are. And so this is pretty much it, Steve, in my perspective.
Perfect, sir. We always say that, is our evolution out of default or design? And the way you put it across, that it has to be somewhere by design, because it's an opportunity to influence somebody, make a difference.
No, I like this. But very interesting to flag this, and I keep evolving theories as I go along. So if there was a difference between leadership and mentoring, then a leader would do things by design. And mentoring would be something far more informal and be by default. It's really accident. The blurb says that people ask me, how would you get the right mentor? And I say that sometimes you won't. And you keep looking. And there's this saying of the Buddha that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And pretty much, so there's no rocket science in finding the right mentor, except keeping your antennae alert, looking out, and more importantly, not just waiting under a tree for the fruit to fall. Okay, where's my mentor, is not come. It's really to determine what your need is. What is that real need that you want a mentor to fulfill? And then perhaps if you look, the chances are that it will become less accidental and more of an objective to be attained.
Perfect, sir. The rest of the saying is that when the student is ready, the teacher would disappear as well. And
Indeed.
So,
in fact, this branching out from this thought, there's a tradition in ancient India, the Guru Shishya Parampara. And at the end of the journey in the Gurukul, the Guru would actually touch the Shishya's feet. Because as you said, it's time for the teacher to disappear.
So, just curious in life, sir, is there been a point where, the mentors you've moved on from your mentors, and was it a conscious choice that you made, or was it, growing of the tree, a normal evolution?
Okay, let me think aloud. There are 14 mentor types in the mentor Morphosis model. I think, barring a choice of a vocational mentor or a creative vocational mentor, most other mentors in your journey happen by chance. Some kick in the relationship, sometimes they don't. But it's really that. You can't consciously make choices. So for those who will never read my book, let me mention the various models. So parents and teachers are identified as bedrock mentors. or there's even grandparents and ancestors who are prenatal mentors. They, for instance, started within the nurture versus nature debate much before you were born. And then there are venerable mentors whom you respect and who are wise, you listen to them, and so forth. But as I said, parents happen. They're predestined, so you don't choose your parents. So categories like bedrock mentors happen. Teachers, to some extent, later in life when you have electives, but otherwise in school, teachers also happen. You know, in our time there used to be 3 sections, A, B, and C. So you might be riddled by a very good teacher in section A and not so good in C. So that's again a matter of chance and destiny. And they perhaps change your life ahead.
Again, on the thought, sir, some mentorship comes to us by choice. You know, you have to make a choice of. You earlier said that you don't go looking out for a mentor; it happens at the time. But sometimes you get stuck, and you feel like you need an intervention or an insight to move forward. When do you think is critical, and how do you approach the situation of finding out a right mentor for that particular situation?
I'm a bit of a realistic in this. I'm not going to promise any optimism, but I have a solution. That if the right mentor doesn't come your way, then there's one category in the book called the inner mentor, and that is yourself. There are friendors and inner mentors that are closest to finding a solution where the world provides none. A friendor is really your soulmate, someone you can trust, a mirror to you, total confidence. Like the millennials say BFFs or 4 a.m. friends, but they're really an alter ego. They're a version of what you are. And they're also friends who can be mentors. So if they're cheerleaders, then they're not flattering you, they are honest. And if they criticize you, you don't feel bad because they mean well. It's that level. So perhaps friendors is a category of mentors where there's maximum mutual trust. And if everything fails, because even a friendor might not know, and in this day and age with the pandemic and the future, which is going to be more adverse, and all the news that you're reading about, depression and challenges that are mental in nature, a friendor is very essential. If not, then the inner mentor, seek advice and don't lose confidence in yourself, because to put it crudely, shit happens to everyone. So you're not unique. But the resilience, the last chapter of the book is about mentoring for adversity. So it's no longer about EQ or emotional intelligence. It's about AQ. It is the adversity quotient. How strong are you to combat challenges in your life? And they're going to increase as technology evolves. Where the world is going. Environmental issues, so adversity is going to be the key sort of variable for you to plan your sort of career graph or life skills, and hence your search for a mentor will also be. So how many of you during your work from home days found a mentor online who said, okay, don't feel bad, you're cooped up in a place doing work, there are pressures, you don't know what the sunshine is like. So if you found someone in that journey, well, that could be a true mentor. You can take that relationship forward.
Perfect. So coming back to leadership being a byproduct of getting a good mentor and having opportunities in life. showcasing leadership in almost all the aspects that you pick up. You said you were always inspired by a polymath, that is Leonardo, and you yourself have had multiple opportunities come your way, and you've performed them, and they're memorable. They're more than significant in a lot of our minds. How is it that we indulge in picking up new things or being a jack of all trades, but not only getting into it, but staying there and adding a significant more to that particular field?
It's not a universal phenomenon. Also, I mean, I'm sitting here and you've given me pride of place, but the fact is, a jack of all is master of none. So I'm just a dabbler by accident. I've achieved nothing in one singular field. I've been, as I say, without any offense to people, thank God for mediocrity, that I could sort of rise a notch higher. But it's temperament. I've multitasked purely because I'm impatient. I get bored very quickly, so I move on. And if an opportunity arises, I take it. And then if the going was good for something that I've skipped, I can continue with it as well, which I have. So actually speaking, there's nothing that I've taken on and forsaken or skipped. Like last night I had a show at Prithvi in Bombay, Mumbai, and packed up at 12:31, and then I'm here. So every day is different. And I go back, and 19th of Jan I shoot for a web series. Then next week I'm doctoring a script someone has written. I'm mentoring a script. Baki, I'm also leading a corporate life, interacting with Stephen here, which is wonderful in such a dynamic organization such as yours. I'm totally bowled over. I still haven't come to grips with what you do, because it's such a special, as I was mentioning, boutique task force. But anyone would be proud to be in an environment like this. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Just out of curiosity, and this is going a little offbeat, but this question remains, right on the top of my head, and I just blurted out at this time. So, you as an actor, or you as a writer, or a director, or the corporate head, which of these roles is the closest to you, and how did it become close to you?
It's a very simple answer. I only do what I like to do. Otherwise, I don't do it. So, which means, it's like offsprings. You have no favorite child. Everything that I do, I'm equally fond of.
Okay. It comes out of a little different place, because
Indeed, and that's why I'm saying that it's nice to have my journey as a reference point. So let me give some gyan here. Who knows classical music? Anybody here?
Anubhav.
So there's this concept of jugalbandi, which is two instruments, voice, whatever, in tandem to create a product which is in sync and delivers a beautiful piece of music. So I have a jugalbandi theory in that you need two things for the ideal vocation. One is the passion, undeterred passion to do it. And that's where the problem starts. You might have passion for something, but might not necessarily be very competent in delivering it. And that's where a lot of dreams get shattered. Build on your skill sets and talent to match your passion. And that is the sweet spot of jugalbandi, where then it will happen. Like Walt Disney said that if you can dream it, you can do it. But I have a caveat that if you can dream it, you can do it, but only if you're very good at doing it. है ना? ये इसको तो समझ आया. Correct है. So I have this thing that in any session, if something I say hits the spot even in one individual, that session is worth it. So Sidra, you succeeded.
So, right on point, sir. For us, it's always 0, 1. That's what.
No, I don't mean in binary terms, but Vaisa 0, 1 there.
The journey from 0 to 1.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. So, sir, I'm sure the audience has a lot of questions about a lot of movies that you have, been a part of.
And next time I come here, we'll do an acting workshop. No, don't laugh at it. So, Procter and Gamble, Colgate-Palmolive, HSBC. I've actually done offsites with theatre for potential CEOs.
I agree, sir.
So the performing arts, and primarily now, because we talk about legacies and storytelling, the mythical structure. So what is the difference, and no offense meant here, between the Tatas, the Birlas, and the Ambanis? Is the quality of their stories. And storytelling becomes very important for mentors. So there's a whole chapter on storytelling for mentors. I mean, and I wrote that chapter during the pandemic. So I added a few chapters. I told my publisher to include them because of the paradigm shifts that were happening during the COVID thing. Storytelling, but I don't know if it fits in really the organizational culture here, but I think, so you mentioned Syzygy, right, my initiative. So the tagline for that initiative was, where I did all these programs for these multinationals, rejuvenating talent for adventures in leadership. The theory being, and it will apply very soon to you, fortunately the average age here I'm told is 29 to 35. 35 to 45 is a range by when the person that you started your life's journey with, the core person that you are, suddenly starts getting taken over by the professional that you have become. And you lose out the true person that you actually sort of began your journey with. So the purpose of this initiative was really to rejuvenate talent for adventures. In the financial sector, 45-year-old MDs are not just playing golf after burnout or doing farming or something. So it's also about threshold of needs. Anyone here read Maslow, they will understand that self-actualization should actually continue for all your life. And it does actually. Whether it's a spiritual pursuit or just reading or lecturing or just being immersed in your work. And I think it's not a bad thing if I ask someone, this is what's your hobby? And the answer is work. It's perfectly legitimate as an answer.
And let that sink in.
No, because that's Jugalbandi, no? So here's the thing. So I wrote a paper in HR called JOCAVO. Acronym for job, career, vocation. So job is 6 months, transactional, salary low, there. Career is a little forward, mid-term or more, that I am into software or I'm into finance and I'm just going to pursue it till I become an expert in finance, and that's my career. And because I'm qualified to be that, that's all I can do. And the third is vocation, which comes from the Latin vocare, Stephen, which in the 16th century was a call from the church. And it means the calling. So the calling to join the church was vocare. And vocation comes from there. And that's your true calling. There's a quip that no wonder it sounds like vacation. You'll never have to work a day in your life if you're happy with what you're doing at work.
with self-actualization, sir, and you said, the passion that is there to understand your calling. And a little previous conversation of ours where you said that, people burn out, especially in our field of IT. How do you balance between, everyday mundane and what you really like to do?
Okay, I'd be a millionaire counselor if I could really provide an off-the-cuff solution. But it's really coming back to mentoring, it's your inner mentor. So each one of you should ask yourself the question, or I can ask you that question. So one, of course, is apart from work, what do you do in your waking up time? Is there a passion, another passion, a hobby? It could be anything. So don't even comment, I'm reversing our roles now. How many of you, apart from work, have something else they want to do with equal passion? Anyone here? Or it's all about work? Not bad. Not bad. That's very interesting because, again, as you said, we are in that environment where, so for those who did raise their hands, I have a thought that within what you do, there's of course the motivation to deliver. Result orientation as a result of motivation is perfectly valid and is the most logical thing. I mean, you're here to count young people like you. Burnout is not within your territory of addressable right now. How do you entertain yourself within what you're doing? So to give you a very crude example, and I'm going back to the motherboard of TCS, when it was really binary and I used to get those reams of reports in telco for my spare parts, and IBM large machines used to churn out that printout output, and I used to tag it along, and you were punching keys binary. So there were holes which were red. And there were these flow charts, when you program, there are these flow diagrams. Now with technology today, while we were very boring and pencils, like we just used to say this is there, this or that, like a decision tree or whatever. Now you've got something called animation. All the diagrammatical work that you do, make it cute. Animate it. Get your favorite cartoon character to actually call the shots in a flow chart, flow diagram. Entertain yourself. It's a piece of art. Cartoon banate, sketching karte, doodling. So doodle based on technology. Entertain yourself. So they've actually started calling it infotainment now. Now for a while now. The reason is exactly that how do you reduce boredom at work? Alienation, meaninglessness, powerlessness, normlessness. How do you reduce that? And that's really finding entertainment. And it could be anything. And I'm sure the bosses here will not have a problem if out of 8 or 12 or whatever working hours that you have, 10 minutes you take off. Go totally on a tangent, and I'm not talking about Facebook and social media, all that nonsense which you cheat in any case, don't do that. I'm saying specifically find an assignment once a week for 10 minutes that doesn't harm anybody but actually takes your motivation level, entertainment level. Watch a movie, watch a web series, Netflix download karo, lunch 5 minutes pehle aur baad mein khana bhi kha liya. And then no one's going to, you won't lose your job, trust me. Entertain yourself, but without guilt. ऐसा करके WhatsApp नहीं करने का. Consciously desktop पे रख के picture देखने का 10 minute. So the guilt doesn't bother your entertainment value. ज़्यादा कुछ radical तो नहीं बोला ना?
No, there's a PS in our office which we usually go up to, right there where the system is set up. When we talk of, say, sir, accidental mentors, you know, it usually comes that we learn from multiple things around us. And usually I have a personal conflict between, mentors or peers who help us mentor and accidental mentors. And the divide between, when you have a venerable mentor and, you look up to them, you usually do as they say, and sometimes it comes from a place of without question. And the other two kinds of mentors that is there with your friends and with accidental mentors, you usually have to come from a place of construct. You have to come from a place of doubt. You have to second think, their guidance. Is that something that people should be aware of, or what is the impact of it, or do you take it as it comes and live up to see another day of consequences?
Again, as I said, there's no math or science here. It's like any relationship. A mentoring relationship is like any relationship. You just know that it's right. It's as simple as that. It can go wrong, but then like any other relationship, walk away. So there's a chapter called The Plight of Angels, where somewhere you, because of your ego and desperation, want to latch on to an equation that is not working. Just be practical. Anyone sees American shows, web series? Anyone seen Ted Lasso? It's a very wonderful thing on mentoring in Ted Lasso. So in that they say, that a good mentor hopes the mentee will leave. But the great mentor knows that the mentee will leave. So I think somewhere deep is very profound, but mentioned so casually in the show that therein lies the truth. The inevitability of nothing being permanent in a relationship. Mentoring viewed with this perspective perhaps is the healthiest.
Perfect, sir. A lot to reflect on that particular note. I'm sure you've been a mentor to a lot of people. I'm sure people over here are going to take away a lot from our session. But the one thing you would want to be remembered for when it comes to mentorship, that this is something that I leave behind. What is it, sir?
I'm a little flummoxed here because for me, mentoring is really all about legacy. That whether it's dust to ashes, or upward in the sky, ether, Akash. The only thing is what you leave behind. You don't take it with you. For anything, really. I mean, your tangible, immovable assets are a legacy. But if a productive, well-meaning, humanitarian thought is carried forward, then a self-effacing mentor is the real mentor. Because he need not be remembered. His thoughts should move on, wherever the mentee takes them.
I go back to a little reference that I saw from your work, sir. You said that improvement none required. And when I heard it, and it took some time. So for everyone who doesn't have a context about this particular thing, it was a situation in sir's life when he was going through some viva. And
listen, Stephen, Why are we mollycoddling them? I've just signed an office copy. So that 10 minutes of entertainment, each one of you find your 5 minutes every week and read this book, no? इतना तो कर सकते हो, नहीं करोगे तो then you are perfect, you don't need mentoring. I'm not even hard selling it because the book is already in your office as a copy. Boss.
Yes, sir.
Because you'll do a watered down or a not a Chinese whispers thingy, but it will be it's there, no?
Yes,
Why
yeah.
should you relate it? No, sorry. No.
On that note of not required, I'll leave the floor open for questions if anyone has something that they.
That's lovely, Stephen. You're so wonderful. You're the man of God. Yeah, a good soul.
Yeah.
And now you're old enough not to be walked over because these days vulnerability is exploited. So you've gone past that stage.
Yes. So, calling everyone for questions.
They don't have questions. They know everything.
We have a mic, if you're sitting on the further part of the room. If not, we can hear you. It's a small arena. So, any questions from anyone?
No one's interested. You only ask.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
I think it was an excellent session. There were some different learnings coming out of this session. My question to you is, when we look at the mentor, right, and you explained about various levels of mentors, 14 levels of mentors, to be precise. End of the day, what tends to happen is, I think as you said, your internal mentor is something which I think relates back to spirituality. Something where you know inside you that you are right. There are things, maybe someone else is saying something, but you know this is the right route or this is the right way. And you are afraid to take a call, right? Then how do you overcome that calling of an internal mentor?
So here's the thing. There is a level of inevitability to this. There is no guarantee that that voice of the inner mentor will eventually have a desired effect. That solution is almost instantaneous. There is no scope or opportunity for any other decision-making process but saying, I cannot be in this limbo. What do I do? And the voice says, do this. And there comes this thing of the success ratio or the accuracy of the decision. And that comes from experience. If it's a voice of desperation, then it's a decision. So you are more than crossroads, this, that, the other, I can't help it. So there's fire and there's storm and there's nothing there, just let me take this one, and only it's a mirage. But at that point of time, that's the decision. And you will take the path, because that's the only map you have. But there's no guarantee that the other two paths would have given you a superior kind of experience, for want of a better word. Basically, it's not about right, wrong, happier, less happy. It's about what now, what next. It's really making choices for a destiny that's already been preordained for you. GPS बोलता है इधर से जाओ, पता लगे साला metro बन रहा है. Eventually take a U-turn, go. Eventually you'll end up here. But the fact of the matter, whether that was discomfort, whether that learning not to follow GPS when there's a metro is going to be avoidable as a decision in the future. So coming back to the theme of this, evolve, it's all about the evolutionary process of learning. There's no good or bad. There's not even, as the same management jargon, effective or ineffective. It is. It just is. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yes, please.
So,
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful insights. My question is, when you rightly said the mentor will appear when you are prepared, right? So, of course, as a person, personally, I think yes, of course, mentor is required. And consciously, how should you prepare yourself to find the right mentor?
There are only 3 or 5 questions. Will you find time to read this, or should I open and read it?
I am reading it, but I haven't.
So it's there. Basically, मैंने कुछ 50 बार ये किताब पढ़ी है यार, मैं थक जाता हूँ. But very simply, it's like any HR, any need, personal need, training need, anything. What is your need that you need gratification or fulfillment from a mentor for? Make it narrow, like a linear programming model. Identify the constraints so that your daira is narrowed down, your sphere of thought, and say, I need. So it's always about inadequacy, my communication skills, my spreadsheet skills, anything. Those are your needs. So most times, it's a very nebulous concept. It's not working for me, I'm a mess, I need a mentor. Only God can be that mentor, and then there's a debate on whether, in what form God exists. So that search will be even more than the Buddha's search for the teacher. It's absolutely amorphous by definition. What is your need? So specifically, if you want to share it, if not, in your head, here's my question to you. Just think. Let's do this exercise. So, as a concept, as a theory, it's a valid question, and I'm answering that. Identify your needs and match. So if you call a trainer for any soft skill, for say communication, coming back to that, then you have a particular profile of a trainer. Hence, if X is your need, then Y is the profile of the trainer, and hence the mentor. So you cannot call me for your need of running the 100 meters sprint. No brainer. But perhaps if, as I said, there's something that you understand about me and you want to have a counseling session, then I'm closer to you. Whether I'm tolerant of you, impatient with you, working for you in some way, that's a trial and error. But at least you will have a profile match. It's like biodata, CVs, no? 10 CVs kar lo, then you talk and then skill sets, oh my God, there's a cultural misfit only. And so on and so forth, the same logic. So you narrow it down, but then amongst 100 of such identified mentors, it might just go kaput. And here's something I want to discuss with you. In the performing arts, or in a situation where the interaction is a little intimate, like the Gurukul, for instance, informal mentoring, and hence the success of it, is far more effectiveness than perhaps a situation where it is an HR program. And that has been the bane, as far as I'm concerned. I push it, very few organizations are actually looking at mentoring, not just as a formal, they all appreciate it. There are one mentoring program. But the best practices that they use are not of the same flavor as an informal mentoring process. So for me, as I was mentioning to Sidra and Stephen, that now there are CIOs, CTOs. हमारे time में कुछ नहीं. Basically, CXOs were either CFOs, CEOs, COOs. That's it. Otherwise, VPs and all that. Now CIO, CTO, CCO. I've been a chief creative officer and CHRO. New terminology, but now fairly old. So why not the future be CMO? If you really as an organization believe in mentoring, put your money and thing, where your thing is, chief mentoring officer. And involve them in strategic management decisions. Fortunately, HR has risen to those ranks now, and CMO is next, because mentoring is the need. And at least you can begin by having it as one rung lower than your chief learning and development officer. But my challenge to anyone who's a decision maker in organization, and especially the kind of dynamism and flexibility that this company has, is really make mentoring as important as you think it should be. If so.
Just to add to a point, sort of as HRs.
Bro. So, Baltana, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? If I'm around, 10 years from now, you should be the first CMO in Pune.
Lovely. Any other questions?
Actually, in our everyone's life, actually we have this age where everyone is rebellious. So at that time, like we are said that we should have a good inner circle or a good, like what we say, good friends actually, friend circle. And also it is very difficult to have that realization of inner mentor as well at that time. So like if we are not having a good circle of friends with us, or if we are not able to understand this or realize the inner mentor of us, so what should we do in that case?
Nothing. That's the whole point. You continue to have friends, but a friend happening to you is not in your control. The longevity of a relationship, so a good friend becomes a best friend, or a good friend becomes a not so good friend, that's a passage. And then whether to maintain it, it takes two to tango, that's another story. And the inner mentor really is about instinct and intuition. The moment you can plan to govern your inner mentor, it ceases to be an inner mentor. You have no clue about the inner mentor. It's only in retrospect. Accidents that you survive, trains that you nearly miss and fall and get them. Again, read it. There are tragedies that may have been averted and you look back and you shudder. In retrospect, it's an inner mentor. No.
Yeah. We can have 2 more questions. So.
Then we take photo. Yeah, that's what I've been told. I've not found photos.
That's also the question. We have no idea.
No, this marketing person.
Yeah, please.
Hello sir, thank you for the wonderful session. So actually I wanted to ask, so
Why you didn't get black t-shirt? Huh?
I actually forgot to wear it.
Oh, so I think the answer to your question lies in that. Ask it. Ask.
So yes, how have you seen mentorship make a difference in your own career or maybe others' career?
My life is because of my mentors.
We have Ashish also.
Hello, sir. So we just spoke about decision making, and you told us about doodling and making those, the flow charts. And I had a question for you. How do you approach decision making as a leader? And what factors do you consider if you're faced with a difficult decision?
It's too hypothetical. There are difficult situations and there are difficult situations. So it's from what medicine to take for a common cold to whether to, on my way back to Mumbai, look at the GPS, it varies. And it's all situational. And you might plan hypothetically and academically, for instance, even if you concretize your problem. The variables will be so different by the time you execute or implement what you thought about. It'll be a different ballgame. No, so let me, it's useful that you did this. A lot of our learning, and it's okay in academia, in class may, to impress the teacher with what is known as CP, class participation, or ACP, after class participation. You tend to be friendly and ask teachers. So that's good till then. And those questions can be anything as long as they make some sense. But when you get into the real world, which you are in now, avoid theory. Pragmatize. I mean, just because I'm here and you have the facility to ask a question, if you go so generic, even you would retire by the time I can think of an answer for you. So, no, it doesn't work like that. Concretize. You give me, and there also, I have no claim to being the master of all solutions. I don't know how difficult that situation is going to be. What is for you might not, and I might not have the solution. So the more, and this is what I think this line of work teaches you perhaps, that how tangible is the real world when you program or customize something based on problems and needs. You just can't say, a client can't come say, no, yeah, if I've got a problem in my life and my employee, just customize the program. Your question amounts to that. You will have umpteen meetings with clients, narrow it down.
Hi sir, thank you so much for the lovely session that you given.
Thank you.
And no, I would not be asking about
Just before Anand asks the question, sir, he was the most excited guy when we,
This boy?
when you outside.
No, he was at home waiting for me.
So, yeah, I would not be asking on the mentorship because we have a book to read.
Yes.
So we will be, switching to different questions. So, let me ask you, you are a brilliant actor.
I'm not, but anyway.
Yeah, we all know. Yeah,
Assuming you are right.
yes. But no, sir, yes.
No, okay. Go ahead.
So, you have done so many characters, in many movies you have done. And you actually won the Nandi Award for a Telugu movie.
Yes.
So, I want to ask you, you did a, portrait of Ambedkar.
Yes.
Ambedkar. So, what drive you to that character and how did you prepare to be exactly like him?
Okay. Anyone knows Hyderabad? This place called Annapurna Studios. You heard of Ram Gopal Verma?
Yes.
In the good days when he was good, I used to ghostwrite his films. So, screenplay, a lot of dialogue for the Hindi version of, say, Antam or Raat. So, I was working for something for Ramu, and for weeks on it I used to stay on the studio lot at Annapurna Studio. So, Nagarjuna's father, the great Nageshwar Rao. So we used to chat in the evenings. And one such day I was taking a walk in the large studios, and someone came to me and says, "You're an actor." They'd seen Raat, I think. And we are making a low-budget Telugu film on Dr. Ambedkar. You have a bald patch, so will you act in it? So, okay. Playing Dr. Ambedkar would be anyone's dream, and this was accidental. And those days, because I was doing other work, budgets were never an issue. It was a very low budget film. They had no costume budget. So they borrowed old woolen loose clothes, padded them with cotton. And in the summer of Hyderabad, 45 degrees, some land in Banjara Hills, I was asked to, give speeches in Telugu, which I struggled with. But that was a nightmare. They even prompted, wrote on boards, Eventually, S.P. Balasubramanian dubbed that part because the accent I could never get. So in that 45 degrees I did that. Now when you're going through so much pain, then the preparation automatically happens. I mean, you have to do your best, deliver and get out, because the more takes you give, the more painful it will be physically for you. But yeah, I learned to play the violin. I read up everything, some important parts of the constitution. But that's it, you know, you just don't do it for a part, you also do it for yourself, so it becomes part of your learning. And you'll end up getting a Nandi Award from no less than K. Vishwanath, for those who know the Telugu industry. And sharing it with Chiranjeevi. So we will kya bolenge.
And also adding to that, at that point, you did screenwriting for Baazigar movie, and there's a famous dialogue in that, you know, "Haar ke jeetne wale ko Baazigar kehte hain." So can you tell more about it? How did you find that dialogue, and you know, you wrote
Okay,
it?
this is some unbelievable. Baazigar we wrote in 3 days. There's a place in Khandala, used to be good those days, called Duke's Resort. So once we had a project, we just go in with the directors and jam there and spend time. We go back again, sit in Bombay. But they say that the best work happens quickly and effortlessly. And I had written Ashiki for Mahesh, but there was a line which says that कभी कभी कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ खोना पड़ता है. Okay, so that was some root thought. So when it came to that car race in Baazigar, it just came from somewhere. Har and jeet instead of pana and khona. So it just happens when it has to. Or वैसे you sit 10 days and you still won't get the perfect life.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Put an end to the questions. I hope that everybody takes away from Baba Saheb Ambedkar about reading books and does read the book. With the final notes, sir, I would like to thank you, and I hope that everyone builds up the capabilities to fulfill their dreams. And I hope, like me, everyone enjoyed the session. And that's it. Thank you very much, sir.
Why are they applauding? I don't know. I should be happy, thanking how much I've learned. Yeah, this is all knowledge I know. Thank you for the opportunity. Such captive audiences where you get. Even if they were not listening, at least their pretense is so good.
We have few people who do not come in like t-shirts.
That is there. Also, those who haven't read are a no-brainer, of course. And those didn't ask questions, obviously they were not listening. So it's wonderful. But as I said, that one person, if you establish contact, it's a successful afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.